Hello, my name is John Hansman with Hands-On Technology Solutions, and I'm excited to start out with some new topics for 2018. I'm excited because this is my very first video of the year. I've done a couple other Facebook Live videos, and I decided to shift and do something a little different. So doing actual pre-recorded videos. So pretty excited to bring you some content for 2018. Hopefully, by the time this video gets posted, you guys will be able to start posting some ideas about future videos, future topics, and things like that. So today, we're going to talk about just some basic things. Some things I've talked about in my previous videos on Facebook that are mainly talking about the types of things we have in our home technology-wise. So we're going to talk a little bit about some basics, virus protection, why we should be doing a backup. Then I'm also going to talk a little bit about what is the Internet of Things. You've probably heard that before, and you may or may not know what it means. And so that's going to be our topic for today. It's just those three basic things. And then over the next 6 months, year, we're going to add some more topics as you guys submit some ideas. I already have some from a previous post that I posted on Facebook, and have some ideas that we'll be talking about. Everything from internet speed to picking out a new computer, all those different things we're going to talk about. And so I'm excited to come up with a resource for people to be able to get some information, be able to know, especially in the Thurston County area, where there's a trusted person that they can come to get some help. Because I feel like help in the technology world, unless you're a big company, or you want to go to one of the big box stores, is pretty few and far between. And so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about backups, viruses, and the Internet of Things. I called this video, you'll see the title is Backups, Viruses, and Wi-Fi Toasters, because we live in this weird world where we're starting to see things in our homes that are connected to the internet that I don't think I ever thought I would see. So for example, you can look online, and I'll have a picture of this. There's a Wi-Fi toaster. That's crazy. Like, who needs to know or be able to automatically start your toast? I just find that really odd. But here's a couple of the things that you'll find when we talk about the Internet of Things. We're really talking about products that are connected to the internet in your home. Those are smart products. Those can be everything from lights to your home security system to door locks to thermostats. All those different things are all part of the Internet of Things categories. So here are some of the weird ones that I looked up when I went online and looked around. There's a Wi-Fi toaster. There's a new Brita pitcher that's coming out. That's in it. You can actually keep track of it with your phone. There's a Wi-Fi blender. Is that crazy? It can actually count the calories that are in your blender and tell you how many calories you're intaking. There's an egg tray, which at first I thought, well, maybe that's kind of a weird idea. Who would need an egg tray to keep track of how many eggs you have or don't have in the fridge? And I didn't think about it because I live mostly alone. I have a roommate, but we keep track of things, and we just look in the fridge. And if we think we're going to run out, one of us goes to the store. But if you have kids, it's kind of a cool idea. You can actually, if you have kids that just eat and don't tell you when things are out or almost out, it's a pretty cool tool. So you can look that up. That's kind of fun. Then they have wine bottle covers that actually are Wi-Fi enabled and can look at what you're drinking and tell you about it. You can even order that bottle of wine online. So there's a ton of different things. The only other thing I saw that I thought was interesting was an electronic floss dispenser that has lights to tell you when you're flossing regularly, and that's a good thing. Or will give you a frown light if you're not flossing enough or you skip a day or two. And then also there's a Bluetooth fork, which I thought was interesting too. Tells you when you eat too fast. Apparently that's the plan. Maybe I need that. I don't know. So the Internet of Things is just a word or a phrase that has come up as we start looking at the fact that electronic wise, We don't just have computers in our homes anymore. We have smartphones, we have tablets, we have gaming consoles, we have a ton of different things. In my house, I have lights that turn on and off. Like I have one that turns on when I come home at night and it's dark. It automatically turns on so I can see inside the house. You know, I have a smart door lock, a smart garage door opener. All those different things all fall into the Internet of Things category. Now, when we're talking about the Internet of Things, I think it's important for us to look at, there's a discussion that some people have about whether it's good or bad. Is it good or bad that we have all these devices? In some cases, I mean, you think if you have door locks and you have thermostats and you have all these different things, you can actually have a ton of devices in your home. Each one of those, if not responsibly taken care of, responsibly updated by either the consumer or by the manufacturer, can pose a security risk in your network. And smart hackers can actually use those devices or use the opening that those devices create to get into your network. So we want to keep those things in mind as we're looking at these things. So as we're thinking about whether we want to get a Wi-Fi toaster or not, we should think about whether it's worth the potential security risk. Is it really worth opening up our network to a device that do we really need it or not? I think that's really the question. Do we really need that device? If we can live without it, it might be worth it for us to not actually purchase it or buy it. It may not be helpful. It could in the end, if it's not taken care of by the manufacturer, it could cause more trouble than it's worth. If we choose to use one of those devices, we need to make sure that we're keeping those devices up to date. Now, some of them, phones, generally, iPads, iPhones, Androids, computers, will tell us when they need to update, or in some cases, they'll update automatically. Some of these Wi-Fi enabled, Bluetooth enabled devices, they do not do that. And so we want to make sure we're looking at those to make sure that we're keeping those things up to date. Same thing with our computers. Turn on auto updates, or at least every once in a while, go make sure that it's being updated. Some other things in the home that are not necessarily part of the Internet of Things, but they could be considered it, are your Wi-Fi routers. Those need to be updated regularly. There was recently a vulnerability that was found that affects some Wi-Fi routers and computers and smartphones and tablets and all those things. And so we want to make sure that when there's a update available by the manufacturer, we're installing it. Blu-ray players, TVs, video game consoles, and printers are all examples of devices that pretty much everybody has in their house that need to be updated regularly. So that's kind of the Internet of Things part of the topic today. Be curious to know what type of Wi-Fi connected devices you have in your home. Put them down in the comments. I'm curious to know what you have. The other thing that I want to talk about today is I want to talk about the importance of backups. I find it's really important, and here's the big reason why. So today I had to send a quote out to a customer who has a hard drive that went bad. He is a musician, and all of his music was on that hard drive. Now, I had to send it out. I don't have a clean room or anything to do my own data recovery, so I had to send it out to a company in California to do the work. The price tag, because it has to be done in a clean room because of how far gone his hard drive was about $1,700. Think about this. $1,700, $1,700 he has to spend to get his data back. And it's important stuff to him because he's a musician. It's his music that he's been making over the last several years. There's no way for him to get it back any other way. It shows the importance of making sure that we're really backing up and storing our really important stuff somewhere so that if for some reason the worst happens to that, we have it somewhere. And so that's a bummer. I mean, $1,700 is a ton of money. Think about all the things he could spend instead of spending it there. And so that's a sad quote to have to give somebody. And so I want to save you the trouble. I want to save you the time, the energy, and the money, and the stress, and give you some steps that we need to be thinking about. So backing up, what do we want to back up? We want to back up our computers and our tablets and our smartphones. Particularly your tablets, depending on how you use them, may not be as important. Some people just use them for books, games, and things that already exist on the cloud, so that's not as big of a deal. But our computers and our phones are super important. And some of that depends on how we're backing up. Some things are already done, like if you're a Gmail or Google subscriber, your contacts are already backed up for the most part. So you don't need to worry about them. But your pictures and your documents on your computer, for a lot of people, your QuickBooks files, if you're maybe even a chiropractor, you should, it's required, but you should have a backup to back up your client files, all those different things. Now, there's different ways you can back up. One of the newer, I think, better ways is to cloud backup, is to actually back up to a server that's hosted by a company. And generally, what's good about those companies is they do not have just one computer backing up your data. You're backing up to a network, which means most likely your data is being backed up to not just one server, but two, so that if one dies, you still have your data somewhere else. Especially if you're going with a high quality product, you're going to have that redundancy that you want. Cloud backup's good because if something happens to your equipment, you have a house fire or somebody steals your computer and your hard drive, you still have the ability to get all that stuff back by downloading it from your cloud server. I personally think that's one of the better ways to go. The other thing you can do is use an external hard drive, like a USB hard drive. Costco, for example, sells a number of good hard drives, some that have backup software already built into the hard drive, but you can also, if you have a Mac, you're going to use Time Machine. If you have a PC with Windows, Windows 10 now has, and actually I think it's had it since Windows 7 or maybe even earlier, has had a backup software that's built into Windows that you can set up. But there's also some that come with the Western Digital hard drives or the Seagate hard drives. They have their own recovery backup software that you can use as well. So a USB, they also have internet-enabled hard drives that you can also purchase, or if you're really sophisticated, go to a server in your home. Some people are doing that. But here's the point. The point is we want to make sure that we are backing things up. And in a lot of cases, I would recommend not just backing up one time or one place in addition to your computer, but make sure you're backing up into two places. Make sure you're backing up to another hard drive maybe, especially with pictures and really important things. I think it's a good idea to back up to two different places, which means in reality, you have those things in three places. There's a couple different ways you can do that, either by storing those things online. That's one way. I use Google Drive, or there's another product called Data Drive that I use for all my work files that's secure. And then my pictures are all saved on the cloud as well. Because if something happens to my computer, I don't have to worry. I just get all that stuff back. I just have to buy a new computer. Insurance would cover that. And if things are lost, I'm not losing data, which really in reality is the saddest part of when your computer crashes. It's, what did I lose? Did I lose something really, really important? And so that's always the sad part about data recovery. So a couple things to keep in mind as you're backing up your computer. Those hard drives that you're buying, most of them, unless it's a solid state, or they call it SSD hard drive, those are mechanical. They have a spinning disk inside of them, and those actually do fail. And I looked online. I actually did a search to kind of figure out how often, or what's the statistics about how long a hard drive actually lasts. And I found it interesting. So at the 4-year mark, the hard drives begin to decline substantially after 4 years, like the failure rate. So it goes down. It was something like 70%. It'd be the opposite. It would be like 20% fail, and then at the point where 4 years hits, you're getting down to 40%, hard drives fail. And then when you hit the 5 and 6 year mark, the rate is 50%. 50% of hard drives that are mechanical fail after 6 years, the 6 year mark. So what does that mean? If you have a 6-year-old hard drive, that means there's a 50-50 chance that that hard drive is going to fail in the near future. So that tells me that if you have a 4 or 5-year-old hard drive, it's time to move your data onto another hard drive. Go down and buy another one. They're not that expensive. Get all your data off of there, and don't trust it with your most important documents. You can trust it maybe to move things from one computer to another or things like that, but do not trust it as your backup if it's over 4 or 5 years old, or even, especially not after 6. At 6 years old, 50% failure rate. That's crazy when you really think about it. And so that was an interesting information. I saw that on multiple websites, not just one. So that was really interesting. So just really important. Back up your stuff. It's always sad to go to a client's house when their computer crashes and you ask them, did you back it up? Especially if it's a hard drive failure. It's just sad to see their head sagging because they realize they probably lost everything, and that's just not a good feeling, even for the technician who's going there to help people out. So that's our advice, and you'll hear from every IT professional who always says backup, backup, backup is one of the most important things you can do. So last thing I want to talk about is virus protection. I've kind of changed my stance on virus protection over the last couple years as I've been out working with clients more regularly. And one of the things that I've noticed is that for a while I pushed Windows Defender, saying really virus protection or having a separate paid virus protection isn't really necessary. But I've been starting to see holes where Windows Defender was not stopping viruses from getting on people's computers. I'm not a fan of Edge, Microsoft's new browser. I've seen stuff get through there, and I've seen Edge go into this weird loop where you keep on getting back to the same malware site over and over again because it remembers the last place you went when you close the tab, and it's a vicious loop that I've seen a ton. And so here's my advice. If you are a advanced user and you know where you're going on the internet, you can probably potentially get away with just using Windows Defender. But if you feel like your computer gets viruses, or you know somebody who seems to always be complaining about getting viruses, I would convince them that they need to get a actual paid subscription. My virus scanner of choice or virus program of choice is Malwarebytes. We sell the premium package of Malwarebytes, and I like it. It has good real-time protection. I've gone to clients' houses where they had Windows Defender running and they were having issues, and I ran a scan with Windows Defender and nothing was found. And then I went to Malwarebytes and I found a ton of stuff, cleaned out their computer, and everything seemed to run a lot better. I've also installed Malwarebytes Premium on their computer, and immediately the real-time protection is finding that there's outgoing traffic that's not supposed to be leaving the computer. And so Malwarebytes is an example of a product that actually does do real-time scanning, which I think is a great thing. It'll stop you from going to sites that they have on their blacklist of sites that contain malware. And then also they do a automatic scan daily, which I think is also important. So I don't necessarily care which virus protection you use. If you want to use McAfee or Norton, or there's some other good ones out there that lots of people can tell you about and tell you whether they're great or not. My favorite has been Malwarebytes. That's the one that I've used the most. It's really focused on malware too, which I think is important in today's day and age, because it seems like viruses are not as much in prevalence, or they're not as much. It seems like viruses are not as around as much as malware. Malware seems to be the big thing, and I feel like that product does a fantastic job of removing those things. And so that's really it for today. That's all I have, is just those 3 topics. Again, thanks for watching. I'm sure I'll have only one viewer when you look. Who knows how this thing will go. But if you are one of the people who are looking at the video, put your comments down in the bottom so that we can come up with some ideas, some topics. I want to hear from you because I want this video series to be helpful. I want this video series to be interactive in a way that you can get the information you're looking for. And so, yeah, definitely send a message to me or post your comments down below in this video, and I would love to answer your questions. Thanks very much. Again, my name is John Hansman, and I own the company Hands-On Technology Solutions here in Thurston County. And I'm excited to work with you or help you out or answer questions. Or, man, if you're not in this state, we do remote support as well. So have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you around.